Hello, welcome to CLSB Politics. Sean Briscoe speaking. So, as promised, I thought we could look at the math of what happened on the third, and I think you guys are going to find this pretty interesting. It goes along certain lines that we all know exist in the Democratic Party, and it's just interesting to see them mapped out. Thought you guys would appreciate this. So, real quick, let's get started. So, Texas overall. On the right hand side, you see the red map, the red Texas map. That's a demographic map. The green, the yellows, those are African American communities mostly or predominantly. And then anything red is going to be other. So it'll be Hispanic or white mostly. Although when you do drill into the cities, you do find large Asian communities and things like this. But this is kind of just a broad look. And I wanted everyone to see the differences in the two maps, or really not the differences. So as you can see in East Texas, you have a large, predominantly African-American community out there. And you kind of rolls right up to Dallas and kind of ends just north of Austin. And that's where Jasmine did most of her, got most of her votes from by far. But it was interesting to see that the demographic map and her voter universe map matched up. So I thought we could look at Dallas, and I'm going to come back to this map at the end because there's also a really interesting side point I'd like to make. But on the right, of course, is the demographic breakdown of Dallas. African Americans are the light to blue to greens, and then the rest of it's going to be Hispanic and white make up the red areas. And as you can see, specifically, especially inside the belt, the voter turnout, and I mean, I guess it's really all turnout, but the voter universe and where they decided, I mean, almost match up perfectly with the demographics. Really interesting. And some of us not that surprising, especially any of us who've worked in Dallas and done large programming in Dallas. This is 9 times out of 10, this is what you'll see. This is why that, and I call it the blue triangle, which is that kind of the highways make that triangle there in South Dallas. That's the blue triangle. That's the area when you're running county-wide in Dallas County, you absolutely have to win in order to win the primary. It's kind of interesting. So total was Jasmine Crocker had 163,000 and James Talarico had 110. So Jasmine Crockett netted 53,000 out of Dallas. Not bad. Let's go to Houston. This is the other city that Jasmine Crockett won. Okay, again, you can see that diagonal blue-green line that runs through it on the right side of the map, the demographic map, versus the voter turnout map. The purple is Jasmine, of course, and it is also running horizontally through this map. Again, it almost perfectly matches up with the demographic map of Houston. So Jasmine won this county only by 19,000 votes. So so it's almost a tie, really. You know, like one city council race between Jasmine and Talarico. So then I thought we could move to Austin, although in the turnout map, I have Round Rock in there as well, because I just want people to understand that it kept on going north. This is a demographic breakdown of Travis County. As you can see, the far right, you do get a little bit lighter score. It's not 50% African American, it's quite a bit less than that, but they're there. And again, in the turnout map, the brown and what would be purple, but there's not much purple here. You can see that Jasmine's footprint was all in East Travis County and none in West Travis County and north of that, which is also happens to be also James Talarico's home county. So we would expect a county like this to turn out very heavily for James Talarico. How much of his he got 110,000 more votes in Travis County than he did in than Jasmine Crockett did. So if you won by 150,000, Well, here's 110,000 of his wins, of his votes right here. It's fascinating. So I thought we could look at San Antonio. This is one James Talarico won, but not by a whole lot. Almost the same kind of split as we saw in Houston. And again, you see there's an African-American population to the far east in San Antonio. And that's also happens to be where most of Jasmine Crockett's support came from. And again, she won it by 29. It's a little, Talarico won it by 29, which is a little bit better than Jasmine did in Houston. And then we can see that Talarico completely owned Hidalgo County. That's what this is. This is the highest population voter group that in the southern part of Texas, and he absolutely owned every inch of it. He added 39,000 to his lead in this county alone. This is an interesting part of Dallas County I wanted to share with you guys. So these 12 precincts right here are the 12 most conservative voting precincts in Texas. They're also where, if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, you live in Dallas. And they all love James Talarico. I mean, they really just love this guy. And he's the anti-millionaire and billionaire candidate. So that's some serious reach Talarico's got. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in the general. So he netted overall, I didn't get down into the hundreds or whatever, but about 148,000 votes. And as as I showed, 110,000 of those came from Travis County alone, which is really amazing when you think about the population differences between Houston and Dallas and Travis County. They're remarkably different. That a county as small as Travis could own and operate a primary this way. I give maximum credit to the Talarico campaign on this one. They had to have done field. They had the months to do it, for sure. They were in the campaign a very long time, and they really did run up those numbers quite a bit. So there's a three-legged stool in Democratic politics in this state. It's white voters, it's Hispanic voters, and it's African-American voters. And you have to have all three of those legs standing in the general to even have a fighting chance. It is my hope that the African-American communities in South Dallas that were treated the way they were by not Talarico's campaign, might I add. It was literally the elections office out of, out of the state government and the county government. It had nothing to do with Talarico's campaign. In fact, they ran into a bit of trouble in Williamson County where they were completely dominating. But it's going to be difficult for that community. You got to understand, let's give perspective here real quick, right? So the African-American community is coming off of the Harris election a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, almost. And that was rough, right? And now they had a candidate running. It's tried and tested. Firebrand, as anti-Trump as I think you can humanly be as a Democrat. And not only were her voters mistreated, and they absolutely were, she was constantly being hit with electability issues. And obviously, here we are at the end of the election, she had electability issues. Also, none of the shenanigans that went down in the southern sector of Dallas County for the elections would have made a dent into the 148,000 vote lead that Talarico enjoyed. And I would say at the most, it would have put it down to maybe 140, maybe mid 30s, maybe. Hard to say. There were a lot of voter confusion, but that was on every side. So I'm going to kind of call that a wash. But when machines don't work, that's a thing. Facts. So people have been commenting and asking me questions. Well, what's going to, what are the next steps? The next steps, of course, is going to be James having to make that move into these communities to say, hey, listen, that wasn't me. And it was not. Absolutely was not. But the party did divide itself along racial lines, which is not new. Let's not pretend that's a new thing. It is absolutely not new. But in both campaigns were run very differently. One had a much longer time span than the other. One definitely had more field than the other, and it shows. There are areas in North Travis County that I can easily see there was field program up in that neck of the woods, because I'm very familiar with that area and I know what they normally look like. And there was a bump there for sure. Field was done in Williamson County by Talarico's team. I know that for a fact. So there was field on the ground, which I'm a huge advocate for. And also, that's how you win campaigns. So I give mad props to Talarico. He's got my vote, no problem. My only problem is, how do you get to the win number? He's got to do 300,000 votes better than Beto did. And Beto raised more money than any candidate ever as a Democrat in Texas, 137 million. I just find it interesting. And I know there's some big groups that are going to come into Texas and throw some serious money around. There's a lot of people are under the impression that Talarico is the guy that's going to be able to move the needle. And he might be. But he can't do it unless every community is behind him. So I'm watching what he's going to do to bridge the gap, because that's how he's going to win. That's how he's going to win. And he's got to be able to do that and then believe him. And there's just not a lot of faith or trust right now. So he's building from a deficit with the African American community in Texas. And last thing they need is a white guy telling them this. They already know it. Then political leaders know it too. So everyone's going to be all men on deck trying to undo this mess that was created by the Republicans in this state in our own primary. But it's going to take every hand with every shovel moving the mountain. And that's, it's like, I just don't blame them. But we have a bigger fight ahead of us. And I think that, do the votes exist in Texas? Absolutely. Are we going to get this big wave of Republicans coming over and voting Democrat in the general? Absolutely not. That is a fantasy that has been told a million times. It's not going to happen. Now, will the millennials vote? That's the group that could actually change this. And they were participating in the primary, so they're out there. But if there's going to be any group, it's going to be 35-year-olds that are going to turn Texas blue. Don't look at any of those Republicans over 65, which is the vast majority of their vote. Don't look at any of them to move. They're not gonna. They all voted for Trump twice. They're right where they are, and they're never going to change. Now, our only hope is getting that apathy group, that 50+% of registered voters that don't vote. And I would, if I were running this state, I would go after every single one of them between the ages of 18 and 40. I hit every single door, because that's what it's going to take. So when I say 7 to 10 million doors, I actually do mean 7 to 10 million doors. And then you got to figure out how to get in high density residential stuff. Good luck. It's the bane of every field director's. That's the nightmare. So it's a hard move. But I wish James Talarico all the luck in the world. I'm going to move on now. We've got other primaries across the country to look at. And I just hope the Democratic Party of Texas figures this out, because like I said, Texas shifts blue, or even some reasonable shade of purple. The GOP will eat itself from within. Guarantee 100%. Texas is the linchpin for that party. All right. Well, I'll talk to everyone later. Again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to take a solid look at North Carolina's primary, and if Arkansas's was Arkansas's. But we've got a lot more primaries coming down the pipe. May and June are going to be, we're 25. Well, by mid-May to the end of mid-June, you have 25 of our 50 states will have their primaries in a 4-week period. So that's going to be nuts. So we've got all that to look forward to. And I'm not really looking forward to the amount of spreadsheet work I'm going to have to do to get around that. So wish me luck. All right. I'll talk to all you guys later. Have a good one.